At 2 a.m., my sister slipped into my room and took my credit card while I slept. By morning, $12,000 was gone, spent on a first-class flight to Paris and lavish gifts with our cousin. A week later, she strolled back in, my dad insisting, "Quit making things up. She'd never touch your money." I just grinned, because the card she used. I woke up to my phone glowing on the nightstand, buzzing relentlessly. Groggy, I grabbed it, expecting junk notifications, but my bank app was lighting up with alerts. 9, 10, 11 transactions, all time-stamped between 2:10 and 2:35 a.m. My brain couldn't process it at first. $1,500 for an airline, $3,200 at a high-end Paris boutique, $3,500 at a luxury watch store. Then smaller charges, if you call $700 small, at cafes and gift shops I'd never heard of. My gut twisted. I bolted upright, dread washing over me like cold rain. I checked my wallet in the bedside drawer. Empty. The credit card slot was bare. I lived with family, not strangers. My younger sister, Mia, had been crashing at my place for what was supposed to be a few weeks, but had stretched into 3 months. She was between gigs and needed a temporary spot. I'd been covering groceries, Wi-Fi, even her ride shares because buses gave her anxiety. Now my card was gone. I stumbled down the hall, pulse hammering. Her door was shut, the faint buzz of her phone charger the only sound. I knocked. No answer. Cracked the door open. Empty bed. No Mia. Kitchen, dark. Bathroom, empty. Front door, slightly ajar. By sunrise, I had my answer. Mia's Instagram story, posted at 3:15 a.m., showed her beaming at the airport with our cousin Zoe, both flashing boarding passes. Caption: "First class to Paris, here we come. Live big or go home." My teeth ground together. By noon, the bank confirmed the charges totaled $12,000. I froze the card, filed a fraud report, but a deeper rage was brewing, not just at Mia, but at the predictable script I knew would play out when she returned. I wasn't wrong. A week later, she sauntered through my door like she'd just been on a quick beach trip, hauling 2 oversized designer suitcases. Zoe wasn't with her, apparently still partying in Nice. Mia reeked of high-end perfume and airport wine. Before I could say a word, Dad, who'd come to get her, stepped in, giving me that familiar "you're overreacting" stare. "Quit making things up," he said sharply. "She'd never touch your money. You've always had it out for her." I didn't argue. I just grinned, because the card she used. To understand why Mia swiping my card wasn't a one-off, you need the backstory. Mia's been the family's golden child since birth. I'm not kidding. If she wanted something, it was hers, no matter how reckless or entitled. Call her out? Suddenly, she's the delicate flower who can't handle criticism. Meanwhile, I was the reliable one. Good grades without prodding, job at 15 to cover my own expenses, stayed out of trouble because I knew the fallout would hit me hardest. Dad called me dependable, which sounds great until you realize it meant we can take from you and you won't push back. By 24, I had a solid tech job and my own 2-bedroom apartment. Mia, 22, was on her 4th career path. She did a semester of community college before needing a break to find herself. Tried bartending school, then quit because it was too stressful. Left a retail job because the manager didn't get her vibe. Guess who paid her phone bill when she was short? Guess who stocked her pantry when her paycheck was late? Guess who co-signed her last credit card because the bank was too strict? Me. And the worst part? She never saw it as kindness. It was just what family does. Except that only applied when she needed something. 3 months before the Paris stunt, Mia called me at 1 a.m., sobbing. She'd fought with her roommate and needed a place to stay. Just for a few days. I said, okay. I had a spare room, ignoring every warning sign I'd learned to shrug off. Days turned into weeks, then months. She started calling my place our home. When I saw her grab my last almond milk without asking, I knew I'd screwed up. Then came the packages. Pricey skincare, designer boots, stuff she couldn't possibly afford. I asked how she was paying. She laughed. "Chill, I've got it covered." Translation: she was piling up debt or expecting someone, probably me, to bail her out. The night before she took my card, we hadn't talked much. I was up late finishing a coding project. Around 11 p.m., I crashed. Mia was still awake, lounging on the couch, FaceTiming Zoe. Zoe's her chaos twin. Same entitlement, same knack for dodging responsibility. Together, they're a disaster waiting to happen. I caught snippets of their chat about escaping and living large, but I brushed it off as their usual daydreaming. Mia had maybe $50 to her name. She couldn't even pay her internet bill without my help. At 2 a.m., while I slept, she crept into my room, lifted my wallet from the drawer, and grabbed my credit card like it was a spare key. Hallway security footage later showed her sneaking out with her bag, meeting Zoe outside, and hopping into a rideshare to the airport. When Dad told me to stop pretending she'd touch my money, it wasn't just denial. It was the same old pattern. When Mia totaled his truck at 18, texting behind the wheel, he said she was lucky to survive and got her a better one because the old one held bad vibes. When she burned $5,000 on a Vegas weekend, he called it living her truth. When she got fired from a boutique for missing shifts, he took her to dinner to lift her spirits. But me? When I overdrew my account by $30 in college because a client paid late, Dad lectured me for an hour about fiscal responsibility. So when I faced him and Mia, her smirking behind him, I knew arguing was pointless. Explaining the bank alerts, timestamps, or Instagram posts wouldn't matter. To him, Mia wasn't just innocent. She couldn't be guilty. I was just the suspicious older brother who needed to let it go. But here's what they didn't know. The card she used wasn't a regular card. It was a business card linked to my freelance coding gig, one I'd been growing for 3 years. It had security features Mia couldn't have imagined. The second she used it for those first-class tickets, my custom tracking system pinged me. Not just the bank, my own setup. Every purchase she made was logged, geotagged, and backed with merchant data that'd blow her mind. I had everything I needed, and I wasn't just getting my money back. I was making sure this was the last time she or anyone in my family pulled this stunt. A week after Mia strutted back from Paris, the tension in my apartment was electric. She didn't apologize or explain, just acted like she'd been on a casual road trip, not a transatlantic spree funded by my card. Dad kept showing up to check on her, which meant giving me dirty looks for being harsh to my struggling sister. That Thursday, I'd had enough. No more being the family's doormat. No more swallowing my anger while Mia and Zoe coasted on other people's cash. No more Dad's blind loyalty to his darling daughter. I set it up perfectly. I told Mia I'd get us takeout, her favorite ramen, the kind so pricey you wonder if they're serving gold-plated noodles. I invited Dad too, saying we should talk things out. They arrived right on time. Mia in a velvet tracksuit and $1,000 sneakers, the exact ones she'd bought in Paris. Dad in his usual khakis, that judgmental scowl locked and loaded. We sat at my kitchen table, ramen bowls steaming. I let them eat for a bit before leaning back and saying, "So, about the $12,000 you ran up on my business card." Mia's eyes rolled so far I thought they'd get stuck. "Ugh, you're still on that? I didn't take your money. Stop inventing drama." Dad jumped in. "Enough, Jake. We're not doing this again." I grinned. "Good. We're not debating. We're proving." I pulled my laptop from under the table, already open to my card's tracking report. Every purchase, with vendor names, times, and CCTV grabs from merchants who sent them over after I reported unauthorized charges. First slide, Mia and Zoe at JFK's first-class lounge, sipping cocktails, boarding passes in hand. Time, 3:20 a.m. Dad's fork stopped mid-air. Mia's chopsticks hit the table. Next slide. Mia using my card at a Paris duty-free shop, arms full of designer bags. Time, 4:45 p.m., Paris time. Another, her buying those $1,000 sneakers she was wearing. Want me to keep going? I asked, voice steady but sharp. Dad tried to speak, but I cut him off. Number. You've been telling me to stop pretending all week, so let's lay it out. I didn't just freeze the card, I filed a fraud claim. The banks reversed the charges, and the police have this report. Mia's face went white. You called the cops? You made unauthorized purchases, I said. On a business account. That's serious legal territory. You jeopardized my work. Dad slammed the table. Jake, this is family. We don't involve police over family issues. I laughed, cold and sharp. Family? The same family that's bled me dry for years while excusing her every mistake? The same family that told me to stop making things up when I had proof? Mia's voice broke, her bravado crumbling. I can pay you back. I leaned in. No, you can't. You don't have $12,000 and you won't. Pack your stuff and get out of my apartment tonight. And Dad, I turned to him, you're not welcome here until you admit she was wrong and apologize for taking her side. Dad's face hardened. You're making a mistake. She's your sister. No, I said, standing, voice rising. She's an adult who's been coddled into thinking she can take without consequences. Well, she's about to learn. I slid an envelope across the table, police report, bank case number, and a list of her transactions. If you think I'm bluffing, call the detective listed there. He's waiting. Mia shoved back from the table, hands shaking. You're destroying my life. I stepped aside, pointing to the door. No, Mia. I'm protecting mine. She stormed to the spare room to pack. Dad sat for a moment, staring at the envelope like it was a bomb, then muttered about me being cruel and followed her. As the door slammed, I felt something new, complete control over my life, and I knew this was just the start. For 24 hours after I kicked them out, my phone was a war zone. Mia's texts started with, You're blowing this out of proportion. You've always hated me. You'll regret this. Then voicemails, half sobbing, half yelling. You've turned everyone against me. Dad's a wreck because of you. Good. Let him feel what it's like to not have me fixing everything. By morning, Dad was calling. I ignored him. Then Mom, who I hadn't seen in ages, started with the guilt. Can't you drop the charges? You're tearing us apart. She's your only sister. You should lift each other up. Lift her up? I'd been propping her up since high school. The only thing Mia lifted was my credit card. 2 days later, the real fallout hit. Detective Carter from the Financial Crimes Unit called to say they'd contacted Mia. Her options, repay the full amount and admit guilt or face charges. I braced for a flood of pleas. Instead, silence. That was scarier. It meant she was scheming. Sure enough, Zoe called next morning, using that fake sweet tone. Jake, Mia's losing it. If she gets a record, she's done for jobs. I let her ramble before cutting in. She should have thought of that before committing unauthorized transactions. Oh, and Zoe, I'd scrub those Paris posts before the cops ask how you paid for your flight. She hung up. That afternoon, Mom showed up uninvited, barging in like she owned the place. They're in a motel, she said. It's horrible. You've shamed your sister. I leaned on the counter, staring her down. Shamed? No, Mom. I exposed the truth. You could have kept it private, she said, voice quivering with rehearsed disappointment. Family issues stay quiet. They're only public, I shot back, because Mia spent $12,000 without permission. She wanted luxury. Now she's got consequences. Mom's lips tightened. Your father thinks you've gone too far. I smiled. He's not welcome here until he admits he was wrong, and if he keeps calling the detective to fix this, he'll have to explain why he's defending someone under investigation. That shut her up. Within a week, the family fractured. On one side, Dad, Mom, and 2 cousins who always backed Mia. They painted me as the heartless brother who betrayed his sister. On the other, my aunt, uncle, and a few relatives who'd seen this pattern for years. They messaged quietly, saying they admired me for standing up. Aunt Lisa admitted, "We all knew Mia was out of hand, but no one wanted to say it first." The real twist came 2 weeks later. Mia showed up at my building, not to apologize, but to bargain. She wore sweatpants and a plain shirt. No designer flair. She looked diminished. "They'll drop the case if I pay you back in 6 months," she said, eyes on the floor. "But you need to tell them you're okay with it." I didn't flinch. "Send payments through my lawyer. I'm not vouching for you. Do it officially or face the charges." Her jaw clenched, eyes watering. "You're really cutting me off, aren't you?" I leaned against the doorframe. "Mia, you cut yourself off when you took my card. This is just the paperwork." She left without a word. 3 months later, the case closed. Mia scraped together the money. How, I don't know, signed the admission, and the fraud went on her record. Dad hasn't looked me in the eye since. My life? Quieter, calmer, freer. No more unexpected knocks. No more loans that never get repaid. No more navigating someone else's entitlement in my own space. For the first time, I'm in charge of my money, my home, and my peace. It's been 6 months since I slid that police report across the table. Mia hasn't stepped foot in my apartment since. Dad sends occasional passive-aggressive texts. "Hope you're happy with yourself." And I am. For the first time, I'm not cleaning up someone else's mess. I'm not budgeting for their recklessness. I'm not guilty for prioritizing myself. Looking back, it's almost comical how long I let this go. Years of just this once, paying bills to avoid fights, thinking family meant endless giving, even when it drained me. The truth they don't want you to see? If you don't set limits, they'll keep pushing until you're a shadow of yourself. They don't stop because you're kind. They stop when you make it impossible to take more. And when you do, they'll call you selfish because you've cut off their lifeline. 2 weeks ago, I ran into Zoe at a coffee shop. She froze like I was a ghost. I smiled, said hi, and kept moving. She probably expected me to ask about Mia. I didn't. I don't care. Mia's record means she can't land certain jobs now. She calls it unjust. Her Instagrams shifted from first-class lounges to second-hand finds and cheap cocktail nights. Her captions scream new beginnings, but it's not reinvention. It's reality hitting hard. I don't revel in her struggles, but I don't carry their weight either. Her consequences landed where they belong. Last week, my phone pinged with a bank email. A $7,500 payment, Mia's final installment. I stared at it, then chuckled. Not because I needed the cash, I'm doing better than ever, but because it felt like the last chapter of a story I'd been trapped in for years. Not Mia's story, mine. The old me who bent over backward for peace, who mistook enabling for love, who thought saying no meant betraying family. That guy's gone. The new me keeps my doors locked, my alerts active, and my boundaries firm. I live in a space that's mine, financially, emotionally, physically. I don't justify my choices to people upset they can't exploit me anymore. And if Dad, Mia, or anyone else tries to test me again, I won't need a police report or proof. One word will do, no. Because I've learned the truest freedom. I'm not their fallback, their bank, or their fix. Never again.